this excerpt is entirely about me, I'm afraid. It doesn't say anything wider. It's entirely about my experiences with depression and anxiety and trying to make sense of it. When I got the diagnosis, I had to fill in a form answering questions on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to kill yourself? On a scale of 1 to 10, how often can you not get out of bed, and these kind of things. So I've kind of taken that sort of 10-step process to try and explain a little bit more to people who maybe don't have it, how it feels to me. Obviously it's very individual to everybody who suffers from it, but this is called Today. Today is a 10. Fire whipped, belly aching, 10. Run fast, split race, crash, flip, lid, nay, still, nay cares, 10. Reckless, reckless, glorious, reckless, reckless, etc. I'm repeating myself. I love you. I hate you. I don't care who knows. I am dancing. I am the dancer. There is dancing involved and I am dancing while the sky crashes down and I don't care. I don't care. I endeavour most brightly. I love you. I fucking love you. Today is a 10.
Part of today is, of course, exploring what mental health is and isn't, and whether it's part of the human condition or something that people do or don't have. And I think as an artistic community, as a mental health community getting together, that issue of identity is something I think that I know will emerge through the thread of the events today. And it relates to stigma and mental health too. What you often get in art is labels. Someone's a creative or a humdrum. You see there's an awful lot that creatives do the creative stuff, the administrators administer, and this is how the world is. And we separate people on identities and on labels.
Today's a 9. Squirrel climbing tree outside, it's a 9. Claws in, chin jutted out, spoon gut swirl, 9. Today's an 8. Is that a twitch? 8. Might need numbing this, like, fuck, I'm going to die soon, 8. Why am I so shit to myself? I shouldn't have eaten that. I shouldn't have drunk that function and drunk that squeal. Fuck's sake, stupid 8. Stupid 8, you ache.
The title of the festival, the dust, washing away from the soul the dust of everyday life. Stigma and discrimination is the dust of everyday life. And if we can use art to wash that away, to bring it out and cleanse our attitudes, our mentalities, our behaviours, and to see things more clearly, more fairly, and with more purpose, then this conference will have made a small contribution to that objective.
Today's a 7. Gallant of mind and of body, pretty much. Aye, 7. Pretty bra, yeah, how's you? 7. Sweet and sparkly like my game face, but not pretending. Is this how this is all supposed to feel? Great. It's great. 7 is great.
The first day I went along to film, as pre-arranged, it was like this horrible cloud of doom and gloom had settled on the school. And Mr. Gervin, the teacher, who is certainly a legend, he was depressed and looking shell-shocked. And he said, well, you can come in. He says, I don't know what you're going to film because the place is like a ghost town. And it was, and everybody was sitting just looking frankly shell-shocked. And this was the day I had gone along coincidentally on the day that Agnesa and her 2 little brothers had been taken away in a dawn raid.
I thought, I don't want to preach the converted with Glasgow Girls. This story has such potential to reach a wider audience because of the energy of the girls, because of their kind of, it's not a cerebral academic piece about immigration law. It was about community, it was about Glasgow, it had this great, wonderful, heartwarming story. It was inspiring. So I thought, I've got to find the form that gets that to a wider audience. And it kept shrieking musical at me. What
a story like Glasgow Girls does is place an audience that perhaps has never really thought about asylum seekers before in their shoes and feel the fear that the girls felt at the time and to connect with it on a very sort of human level. And I think I was trying to find the relevance of the Glasgow Girls story to mental health, and I think that you can really see how narrative storytelling can assist in that, in putting an audience in someone else's shoes and seeing the way that they were suffering at the time.
I always say that actually the whole asylum process is designed to cause mental health problems, even if people didn't have a problem to begin with.
When I use 10 as the top number and yet assign favouritism to 6, is that admitting that I actually don't know my arse from my elbow and I might be a little bit askew? I mean, I am kind of askew. I don't really mind, of course. Great coping mechanisms, the doc said, and when days of 6 run on and on, I'm pretty damn fine.
We worked behind the scenes with Corrie from quite an early stage, giving them some advice on how Steve might be experiencing depression, so that he would have this gradual loss of self-esteem. He'd start to see him become more and more isolated from his friends and family over a period of time, and how that would play out over several months. They were also really keen at Coronation Street, and I think this was a bit of a first really. They were really keen to show how his family and particularly his friends would respond to his mental health problems, and particularly to look at the stigma that he might experience. Stigma being something that we know from the stats we've seen over Time to Change, something that people do routinely experience in their life.
The one that everyone mentions, mentioned at the top as well, is Homeland, and that's a tricky one. Carrie Matheson, the protagonist of Homeland, played by Claire Danes, has bipolar, and she's also a very capable, proactive CIA agent. You know, and in the first season of that, she wasn't really defined by her condition. It was just part of who she was, and it's quite sensitively handled and sort of applauded, I thought, quite rightly. As the series has gone on, her condition has been used by the writers more lazily to drive the plot. If a particularly crazy plot point has to occur, then Carrie's off her meds. Carrie's done a strange thing. That's because she has bipolar. You know, it's so it's a tricky one. So yeah, it's great that one of the leading sort of heroes in drama and television is someone who has mental health problems, but at the same time, the issue still isn't being handled entirely consistently.
I think the watershed moment was when the first issue of The Sun that said bonkers Bruno, in Looney Bin or whatever, and people liked Frank Bruno so much that there was this revulsion that Sunday did it. So by the evening edition, they had to call him Sad Bruno. It's true, this is true. So I think things have changed a lot.
Today's a 5. Halfway house and the house is unknown. Planning? No plans. I can't see the woods for the... Is that a squirrel outside? Anyway, what? Oh, nothing, just feeling a bit... Is that a twitch? I better not be dying again. Sorry, I take that back. Today's a 4. Smudge drunk swampy mush fug 4. Fuck the shops. Today is a 4. Today's a 3. Yeah, Netflix. Box set, cry it fucking brave.
Usually the special powers you see with people with mental illness in cinema is that they're going to be able to murder sort of 28 people and they'll be shot 10 times and they can still walk and swim and climb and all the rest of it. But that's the genre of psycho killer films. It is true that any new film kind of has to be the same as other films you've seen, and they have an angle, and usually the angle pushes the boundaries of what I think is credible in mental health way beyond that. And again, I think, is this about creating more distance? Is setting the bar this high and in this odd way creating difference rather than helping us understand? Because I think more distance means more prejudice and more stigma and discrimination, as I understand it.
Today's a 2. Slow. Crawly. Showering ain't important till 3. At least ignore the clock, don't rise. Today's a 1. Today's a 1. Today's a 1 and that is all I can. Today's a 1. Today's a 1. Today's a 1 and that is all I can. Today's a 1. Today's a 1. Today's a 1 and that is all I can. I can't get up. Today is a 1.
I'm not entirely sure which one of my issues has got me into this situation. I kind of thought I was your average kind of girl next door. Okay, there were a couple of issues. Addiction, for one. And when I say addiction, I really mean addiction to everything. Both good and bad for me. I swayed more towards the bad, mind you. Alcohol, drugs, starving myself, cutting myself, sex and exercise. The latter two could fall into the same category, depending on the participant in the bedroom. All of those things gave me a buzz for a while. apart from if the sex was shit. But where did that leave me after the buzz was gone? Sectioned, that's where. Oh, there's a bad word coming up. I wouldn't say it, I'm going to say see you next Tuesday, okay? So what happened was, I walked it right, okay. You bawled, see you next Tuesday. And that was my welcome into my ward. An elderly Irish lady was hollering at me from the one and only sofa in the section unit. She had impressively noticed that I was indeed bald, a condition called alopecia, but don't worry, I'm not dying yet. I assumed it was my head she was referring to and not actually my see you next Tuesday, as I don't believe I displayed that on my entrance, at least not to my knowledge. But who knows, because now I'm officially nuts. A doctor and a student confirmed it. I just met them, but that was fine. 10 minutes, to be precise. I was lost, I felt numb. My heart stopped, my feelings had left me. I was floating outside my body. I was watching all this unfold on someone who looked just like me, a bald see you next Tuesday. I was underwater, I was drowning, my hand was out, but no one was there. I didn't exist. Please, please, could someone save me? I'm drowning, please.
It's almost like trying to communicate to the world. Does anybody out there understand? It's almost like a kind of, like being in the middle of just letting out a scream, but the scream takes the form of a song, and sometimes it may not sound anything like an angry or frightened scream. It may sound funny. I mean, there's a lot of bits from what Gail read that had an awful lot of humour, but at the time it probably wasn't a particularly funny experience.
Today's a day that I wrote, and I spoke, and I played, and I loved. Today's a day, and each morning I squeegee the list above to test that day's scope. This is a life with depression and anxiety. These days come, and these days always go. Thanks.